Oh, hello.
Well, hello. How are you? Hold on, let me turn off the music.
Um, I was told that people could hear while we were live, so right away we apologize for how terribly crappy we are at this medium.
Yes, indeed. So, first of all, hello and welcome. I'm Jen Childs. I'm the producing artistic director for 1812 Productions, Philadelphia's all-comedy theater company.
And I'm Scott Greer. Just lucky to be here.
Hanger on. We are very excited to try this out for the first time. This is our inaugural episode of I Put On Pants for this.
Yes.
And we do in fact have pants on. Mine are yoga pants, but they still count.
I choose not to prove it at this moment.
Yes, indeed. But we figured at this time when we would usually be in the theater gathering with a whole bunch of people, that instead of doing that, we would just invite you to sit around our dining room table and hang out with us and talk about comedy, which is one of my favorite things to do. So as you can see, Scott is rocking a very new 1812 Productions t-shirt, and I am sporting a vintage 1812 t-shirt. I think in the early 2000s, we tried to do something that was a little bit more feminine in size, and I don't know why it didn't last, but it didn't, so this is mine. Anyway, and Scott, what are you drinking this evening?
I am drinking a very complicated cocktail called a gin and tonic. It turns out that during a pandemic, things like bitters are considered non-essential. So thanks, Tom Wolfe.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm drinking a fabulous red that my sister Angie sent me from Ohio. So cheers to Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
There, indeed. I hope you all are having a cocktail or a libation of some kind and are joining us tonight. So each one of these, we're going to choose one of the shows that we have done in the past. I'm a huge comedy history nerd, and so many of the shows that 1812 has produced over the years have had to do with an era or area of comedic history. And so we're choosing one show a week and to kind of do a deep dive into that era of history and share some of our research, which I know sounds really boring, but it's actually kind of fun. So in fact, and to just give you a little hint as to what this week will be, we opened the show by listening to this music. This is Jackie Gleason's For Lovers Only. I don't know if you noticed, there are 2 cigarettes in the ashtray, and she's left her key there on the table. That says it all. Why are we listening to Jackie Gleason? Well, that is a clue as to which of our past shows we're going to be talking about. So, I don't know. Do you want to do the big reveal?
We're talking about To the Moon.
To the Moon was a show that I wrote, and that Scott started, that we did in what year?
2015.
2015.
But the workshopping and stuff started way earlier than that. Yeah.
2015, it starred Scott, it starred Tony Lawton, Sean Roach, Tracy Higgins. It was directed by Matt Pfeiffer, and a production designed by York Cousineau, and costumes by Rosemary McKelvey. Alison Roberts, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Bad. More wine.
Thoroughly researched.
Exactly. So at any rate, we're going to talk just a little bit about that because that show was inspired by the life and work of Jackie Gleason. And doing during this time is reorganizing, and we were reorganizing our office, and we came across these. And these, I don't know if you can see it. I will hold this up. This is an original script for the Jackie Gleason show, and this one and the rest of them, these are original scripts for The Honeymooners. And if you don't know who Jackie Gleason or The Honeymooners are, shame.
You're watching the wrong book.
Google it. Go ahead and Google it. And we'll talk a little bit about where these came from. First of all, if you go back and look at this episode of the Jackie Gleason show, you'll see that in the corner it says Marvin. Marvin was Marvin Marks, who was Jackie Gleason's head writer. And it is through his son, Greg Marks, that we have this amazing treasure trove of vintage material. Greg Marks is a rabbi in Bluebell, and I know that sounds like a beginning of a joke, but it's not. He's a rabbi in Bluebell. He's also an 1812 subscriber, and he came to see a show of ours that was a tribute to Sid Caesar, and contacted us afterwards and said, you know, my dad wrote a little bit for Sid Caesar, and he was actually Jackie Gleason's head writer for many years, and I have a whole basement full of vintage material. Is that of interest to you? To which we immediately said,
yes.
Yes, please. So we spent a lot of time in a basement of Bluebell going through all of this just incredible treasure trove of material, and Greg was incredibly generous with us. And so to have your hands on the actual materials that Gleason himself used to correct, and there's some of Gleason's notes in the margins, etc. Has just been super exciting at the time. And I don't know if you want to talk just a little bit about the Honeymooners and the variety show.
Right. So the Honeymooners started as a sketch on Jackie Gleason's variety show, which was just called the Jackie Gleason Show. That ran from the 50s until the early 70s. And it spun off in the mid-50s for 2 seasons, 39 episodes of what we all know as the classic Honeymooners episodes, where it was just, you know, a sitcom. But they originated on the variety show and then continued to be done as sketches on the variety show. They were a sort of rotating cast of Alice's, for instance.
Yeah, there were 3 Alice's.
And yeah, so they were done, you know, right up until the 70s.
And the Honeymooners followed, if you don't know, it followed, Gleason played Ralph Cramton, Audrey Meadows, who's the most famous Alice, his wife Alice, their neighbor Ed Norton, and his wife Trixie, who was played by Art Carney, and her name just went out of my head. We'll Google it.
Oh my goodness!
I know,
terrible.
Just went out of my head. Anyway, but it followed their lives, and is a kind of iconic American sitcom that inspired so many other iconic American sitcoms.
But we don't have the rights to any of those scripts.
Exactly.
So these are ones from these are Honeymooners sketches from the variety show that was done. I think we're going to read a little from one. Yeah. That was in the early 60s, 63 or 64.
And for those of you who may be just joining us, if you haven't guessed already, we are talking about Jackie Gleason and the Honeymooners and how it inspired the 1812 show To the Moon. So,
but while we're talking about writers, can we just share a couple of stories that Greg shared with us?
Sure. So
Jackie Gleason hated writers. He was very loyal and loved Marvin Marks. Greg grew up. In fact, Greg's birth was announced on the air. Gleason. Yeah. But Gleason resented being told what to do by anyone. And so he would avoid reading the script. He would, very famously just kind of like glance through it. And if you watch Honeymooners episodes especially, you can see where Audrey Meadows will like, "Really, Ralph? Weren't you just about to tell me about your cousin?" Because Gleason would go up. But he was very volatile about the writers. And Greg tells stories of his dad and the writers knew, because Gleason played golf every day, 18 holes, no matter what. And when they were writing the script, they knew to call the caddy at the golf club and see how he was playing at noon. And if he was not playing well, they would wait another 3 hours to give him the script. If he was playing really well, then they would send the script over immediately by messenger. He said that his father was fired dozens of times, and he remembers coming home from school and there's a brand new Cadillac in the driveway because Gleason had fired him in that morning and then felt bad and bought him a Cadillac to bring him back. But one of the coolest memories he has growing up was when Gleason moved the show from New York to Miami. in the late 60s.
No,
early 60s.
64.
Gleason bought out an entire Amtrak train.
Because he hated flying. He was scared
Wouldn't
of
fly. Bought an entire Amtrak train and put everybody and their families on it, and including the band. And the band played, you know, hours on end. There were, you know, all of the dancing girls, all of the, you know, costumes and everything. And in his basement in Bluebell, he even has menus from, and it was called the Jackie Gleason Express. You know, this was a man who lived legendarily large. Yeah.
And also, I forgot to mention, if people have questions as we're doing this, because we're going to read some of the original Honeymooners, and we're going to read some of the other stuff that from the Basement Files. But if you have questions, you can post them, and our producer, Lily Greer, who also just told us that Trixie was played by Joyce Randolph, so thank you,
nice.
Lily, thank you. We'll be able to take questions or comments at any point, but do be aware that there is a delay. So there's that.
Have we started?
We've never done this. I don't even have a Facebook account. Like I don't even know what I'm doing. All right. Anyway, so one of the things. So if we've talked about who Marvin is, if you look at this other script, which is the script for the Honeymooners. You come around, you'll see that in the corner there it says, oh, this corner, Sammy Spear. Sammy Spear was Gleason's orchestra leader, and he was, and the kind of shtick that would happen on each of their shows is that Sammy would wear this outrageous jacket of some kind, and Gleason, as a part of his opening monologue, would always make fun of what his jacket looked like. And so one of the things that Greg Marks shared with us from the Basement Files is they would just have reams and reams of what they call Sammy jokes, which these are just one-liners that the writer's room sat around like riffing.
Pages and pages.
Pages and pages of, that's a great looking jacket, Sam. You look like Block.
Yeah.
So let's just read some.
Okay. That's a beautiful jacket, Sam. You look like a dinner for four at a Chinese restaurant.
You look like a flying carpet that crashed into a halva stand.
You look like something pulled out by the Roto-Rooter man.
You look like the seat covers on a 1928 tow truck.
You look like one of Dr. Zhivago's patients.
You look like the cue ball in a Czechoslovakian pool table.
You look like a busted garbage disposal.
You look like the starter in a Sadie Hawkins Day dance.
You look like an empty tube of anchovy paste.
You've heard of Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm? There he is, Sammy of the Funny Farm.
You look like a bowl of curds and whey.
You've heard of the Pride of the Yankees? There he is, the Shame of Miami.
You look like a sick flamingo.
You look like a barber pole that was hit by a good humor truck.
You look like a bird sanctuary for the whooping crane.
You look like Howard Johnson's 29th flavor.
You look like you were stabbed by the White Knight. No idea what that means.
You look like the curtains in a munitions factory.
Okay. You look like a grilled cheese sandwich at a Japanese diner.
Yeah. I don't know either.
Nice to just get one in against the Japanese.
Well, you know.
Famously hate grilled cheese.
Your jacket is made entirely of coffee grounds from Clementine Paddleford's percolator.
Okay.
I don't know, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Some better than others. Some better than others. But what you'll see if you look at all of these, that there's some that have checks next to them, and you can imagine the writers just sitting around and riffing and, you know, tossing these off, and then Gleason or whoever the head writer was would choose which ones he wanted to use. Then there were the June Taylor dancers. They were a very important part of the Gleason experience. Gorgeous dancers, dancing girls. They would come and be, you know, and kind of surround him, and then he would always have girl jokes, like one-liners, and they were usually very self-deprecating about how heavy he was. And so let's see.
Girl jokes?
Yeah. Let's see what that's.
Okay.
That does.
All right. These have not been vetted, so let's hope we don't get canceled. There they go, full of ginger and spice. Here I am, full of chow mein and rice. There they go, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. And here I am, Columbus Circle. There they go, two's company. And here I am, three's a crowd. There they go, one by one. Here I am, 5 by 5. And so on.
That's awesome. So so for those who may just be joining us or joining us late, we are talking about Jackie Gleason. We're talking about the Honeymooners, and so one of the things that we want to do is read one of these original Honeymooner scenes, and it's a scene between Alice Cramden and Ralph Cramden. And this particular episode, and again, this is from the 60s, takes place in Ireland. They had gone to Ireland, and the backstory is that this town that they visited had a curse put on it, and only the return of a Cramden could save them. And but this Cramden, whoever the Cramden was, had to spend the night in a haunted castle with the ghost of Seamus O'Toole. So this is a scene between Alice and Ralph in Ireland that night.
Will you go inside and get dressed, Alice? We've got to get out of Ireland immediately. Will you hurry up? It's almost sunset. They'll be here to take me up to that castle any minute.
Ralph, what's the matter with you? Don't tell me you believe in ghosts.
Well, no, I don't.
Then what are you afraid of?
What I believe doesn't count. I didn't believe there was such a thing as television either. Then all of a sudden there's Walter Cronkite in the living room. I get this straight, Alice. I've got no intention of spending a night in a castle with any ghosts.
Believe me, Ralph, there is no ghost. These people are just superstitious. But if you stay overnight in the castle, they'll be convinced the curse is broken. Now stop being such a big baby.
Well, you make it sound so simple, Alice. All I've got to do is spend a night in a haunted castle and the curse is broken. Well, I got news for you. They've picked the wrong boy for this sacrifice. I am no fatted calf. Don't say it, Alice. Don't you dare say it. Some big deal this curse is anyway. You know what it's about? When the curse is broken, they can grow hops on the hillside and make better beer.
Well, beer happens to be very important to this village, Ralph.
Well, it's not important to me. And I'm not risking my neck to bring out any curse on beer.
I bet you'd risk your neck if the curse was on pizza.
Oh, you're right, Alice. You're a million laughs. You keep this up and Seamus O'Toole won't be the only ghost around here. Bang, zoom. Well, if you're so brave, why don't you go up to the castle? Doesn't have to be me, you know. Any Cramden will break the curse. You're a Cramden.
I'm not a direct descendant. I'm only a Cramden because I married you.
Let's deal with one curse at a time. And see.
So yeah, and that was from one of the later episodes, probably from 64, 65. And
on the variety show.
On the variety show. Yeah. On the variety show that came later. And so as we were going through all of this material and sorting through it, we started asking ourselves, well, what sort of play does this make? And so came up with the idea of To the Moon, which was a story about Scotty, who was very much inspired by Jackie Gleason and Ralph Cramden's energy, and who was an aspiring actor, who was working as a standardized patient, which you can explain what that is.
Well, you also took a lot from Tony Lawton's amazing stories of being a standardized patient. Mm-hmm. In fact, several versions of them ended up in the script, but it's a really weird job if you don't know what it is. You pretend to have a certain affliction, and a real doctor in training examines you, and you do back-to-back sessions all day, and you sort of grade them on how, if they ask the right questions. And so you're given an affliction like depression or, arthritis or alcoholism or all three. And so this is what the character Scotty and Lawton, I guess, too, do for their day guy.
We just thinking about that idea, one of the things that Ralph Cramden is, he was this larger-than-life character who always had like these million-dollar schemes. Alice was his long-suffering wife. And I was looking at how do we create a sort of similar character that's contemporary. And so creating this character of Scotty, who's an actor, who has big dreams, who's been told that he looks like Jackie Gleason, That's a big part of this too. His wife, Tracy, works as a perfume girl at Macy's. And I don't know, what else do we need to set up the scene? Let me see. It's, in this scene, so the whole play is really about Scotty kind of trying to get to the moon, really. And all of the things that really suggests, which is becoming famous and, you know, being a big man. You know, Gleason was such a man of so many appetites, you know. What was the great one they called him, Mr. Saturday Night. He was just a man of many appetites. So he was somebody, you know, and you look at, and he was a heavy guy. He was a heavy guy who could dance, who could move, who could like do physical comedy like nobody's business. He broke his leg during...
Yeah, on live TV.
On live TV.
On live TV. He would do this flip. I can't remember. It's like a 180 or a 1 or 2. I can't remember. Where you stand and you flip all the way over and your feet land last. And we had the incredible good fortune to work with Bill Irwin on To the Moon, who...
if you don't know who he is...
Again, you're on the wrong broadcast. And Bill worked with us on 2 different occasions, just sort of early in the process, and then he choreographed all of the movement for the show, the dance. And in any case, I asked Bill to teach me how to do the flip, and he was like, absolutely not. That he's like, because he had a friend who like incredibly well trained and in incredible shape clown who nearly ruined his career doing this. He shattered his heel and like was never quite the same afterwards. And he was like, how this 300-pound man did this every night doesn't make any sense. Yeah. No,
but he was somebody who could really move. And you know, he was super suave, which we'll get into later. But to sort of go, here's this big guy. Like, he was the big guy's dream, you know? Like, he was somebody to look up to. Because he wasn't, for all the fat jokes that were in the Cramden sketch, he was just incredibly well respected. He always looked like $1 million, you know? So, at any rate, in our play, To the Moon, Scotty, the character, this aspiring actor, really wants to be like Gleason and all of the things that Gleason is and represents. So in this scene, this is a scene between him and his wife, Tracy. And you'll see how I tried as much as possible to kind of borrow some of the rhythms and energy of the honeymooners themselves. In this scene, Scotty is supposed to be at work, but instead he's in their living room dressed in a smoking jacket. And I think that's all we need.
That's all we need.
Great. All right, here we go. Hey, Scotty, what are you still doing here? I thought you had to work.
I called out.
What? Why?
Tracy.
Your boss has been none too pleased with you.
Tracy.
Why are you calling out? You know that'll just make her angry.
Tracy, little Tracy, all is well. Sit down. As I told you, my callback yesterday went very well, and I am expecting that they will ring me soon with an offer. But yesterday was about more than just a callback, Tracy. Yesterday, I had an epiphany. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, Tracy, I came face to face with my destiny. I have a real opportunity, a chance to make us millions of dollars. And I stayed home today because I need time to work on it.
Millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars! I'm telling you, Tracy, this is a doozy.
I bet it is.
I have flipped it over wrong. There we go. I have right here a script from an episode of The Jackie Gleason Show.
Okay.
And this episode is a lost episode.
Okay.
A lost episode.
I'm waiting for the $1 million part.
Written by Gleason's writers and never filmed, never written down, never shown on television.
Where did you get this?
That's not important.
Scott.
Tracy, I have you on a need-to-know basis.
Oh, God.
The point is, I have a buyer.
You have a buyer?
I have a hypothetical buyer.
Okay.
Look, I took this script to the Museum of Television History. The director told me that this is very valuable. I could sell this script for millions of dollars. All it needs is an ending.
An ending.
Yes, for some reason, this episode doesn't have an ending, so I'm going to give it an ending.
You're going to give it an ending.
Yes, I'm going to write an ending.
You're going to write an ending.
I am going to finish the work that Gleason started.
Are you out of your mind?
Look, I'm tired of playing a fake depressed person. It's making me into a real depressed person. My last 3 roles have been Humpty Dumpty, Santa Claus, and the before half of a before and after weight loss commercial. I need to take my career in my own hands, and this could be it. This script could be a game changer. Who knows? Maybe I'll even play the Gleason role when they film it. Maybe I'll even film it myself.
I think you've finally gone off the deep end.
Nobody understands Gleason like I do, and if I can learn to speak Gleason, write Gleason...
Oh my God, one casting director tells you you look like Jackie Gleason and suddenly becomes an obsession.
I have always loved Jackie Gleason!
You're not like this. You're buying all these books and watching these videos all the time. You keep saying, and away we go, and how sweet it is, to the girls at the Stop and Shop, like they know what that means.
They think I'm charming.
They think you have Tourette's. And now you're calling out of work because you need time to write? You've never written anything. You can't even write a grocery list. Last year on my birthday card, you wrote, Happy Bird, ... I thought it was Morse code.
I see what's going on here.
Yeah?
You're jealous.
Jealous?
Jealous! I have found my passion while you are still chasing down old ladies so you can spray them with perfume. You are jealous of my artistic practice, so you're going to squelch it. You're going to squash it like a little tomato. You're going to throw your big, scary storm cloud of your that'll never happen negativity over my tiny little blooming buttercup of I think I can hope. Well, you know what, Tracy? I need sunshine to blossom, baby, and you are stunting my growth. You're stunting my growth. Don't start!
So that's
that. We're told that you can't edit live video, which we didn't know going in.
Indeed.
Just to be fair.
So, at this time, we're just going to check in with our producer, Lily. Lily, do you have anything to say? Any questions or anything?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Most excellent. Well, we're going to kind of sort of close by talking about not just Gleason the comic, but he was a weird guy.
Yeah.
He was a very strange person. He was, like I said, a man of great appetite, but he also had this obsession with space and going to space. He would buy these huge telescopes. He had a house in New York that was shaped like a spaceship, had a bar in every room, which apparently is a spaceship.
So do I.
Well, not built in.
No.
Kind of
you gotta roll it up.
Anyway. And there's this apocryphal story, actually, about he was drinking buddies with Richard Nixon.
Yeah, and this shows up, and Nixon loved to golf.
Yeah.
Nixon would often come to Florida and golf with Gleason, and Nixon also liked to drink, as did Jackie Gleason. And so this story is unconfirmed, but does show up a number of places. So Jackie Gleason obsessed with space and aliens, and so he's golfing one day with Nixon, and they're into their cups, and Gleason asks him, like, look, is it true that the Air Force has alien remains on, at Cape Canaveral? And Nixon sort of doesn't say anything, and whatever, they continue playing golf. Then at like 1 a.m, there's a knock at the door, and it's President Nixon, and there's a car waiting, and he says, "Come with me." And they get into a car. They go to Cape Canaveral or some Air Force base or whatever, and ostensibly Nixon shows him what every president, of course, knows about the frozen alien remains. And again, Who knows? But I mean, like a number of places this story shows up. So
there's that. But he was also an incredible, I don't want to say musician. He wasn't really a musician.
He was not a musician.
Music. He
didn't play an instrument.
No, didn't play. But
he has like 30 albums.
Yeah, and like that one we were playing for.
Wrote the theme to the Honeymooners.
Yes, wrote the theme to the Honeymooners. That album we were playing, Music for Lovers Only, I think still holds the record for spending the most time on the Billboard 100 list because it was on there for ages. But he would just know how to hum songs. He would have ideas of arrangements, and that's
he would hire an arranger,
yeah,
hum melodies to the arranger, and then the arranger would arrange.
And one of the arrangers spoke in glowing terms about how great a musician he was while he was still alive, and after he died, when asked about what his contributions to the music was, he said he brought the checks. So do it that way you will. But one of Gleason's albums figures really heavily and was really, really inspirational in, I think, one of my favorite scenes of anything I've ever written, for To the Moon. And it's in terrible shape, but you can't really see it. But it's called The Lover's Portfolio, and it's a 2-album set, and it comes in this sort of leather portfolio.
On the Capitol label. On
the Capitol label. But it includes not only 2 albums, but it includes this Lover's Portfolio, which is a, if you can see how intense those lovers are. And this is Jackie Gleason's sort of, I don't know, instructions for an evening with someone you love. And so you open up this little booklet, and this is one of the first things that you see.
The introduction.
Yes.
During the fact...
Oh, wait, let's put the music on for it. It'll be helpful.
I'll show you some graphics while she does that. During the past few years, all of my albums have been carefully designed to create a special mood. But this album goes a step further than my previous efforts. Here we have assembled additional ingredients for an evening of romance. Of course, music is basic to romance. Music, the gentle soother, the subtle evoker of many spells. So we include a considerable variety of music to create several moods necessary for a memorable evening. The meticulous handling of refreshments is vital to romance, so we include advice on preparing the more elegant beverages. Warning. What follows is merely an aid to help you over those little conversational lulls that might arise during any evening. It is designed to stimulate your imagination and your creative instincts. After all, the real key to a delightful romance is inspired improvisation. Yes, and here then is my lover's portfolio.
And what follows then is a series of drink recipes, and for every stage of the evening, it starts with music for sipping, and then there's music for dining, there's music for listening, and there's music for loving. But it's not only drink recipes, it's also, he gives you poetry to recite to your loved ones. So
at each stage of the evening.
Yes.
So at dinner, the wine of love is music, and the feast of love is song. And when love sits down to the banquet, love sits long. That's...
Well, it does it for me. It does it for me.
It does not.
I'm ready. I'm ready to go. We thank you for joining us, and the reason for reading all of that stuff and staying you with it is, as I said, it inspired one of the scenes in To the Moon, which I think is my favorite scene I've ever written, which is the drinking scene between Scotty and his friend Lawton. And after we close here in just 2 seconds, the link to see the scene from the original production will come up. And just to give you a kind of, to set it up, Scotty is using this exact book to learn how to make a drink for his wife so that she won't be mad at him for buying it, and Lawton is there to help him. I think that's all for right now. As I said, this is super new for us, and to have some time to share things that we have in our, that have inspired us and that make us laugh, and that hopefully make you laugh, and hopefully make you feel like you're sitting around the table. Next week, our inspiration comes from our 2002 production of Like Crazy Like Wow, which is all about 1950s nightclub comedy. So we'll have some Nils and May, some Tom Lehrer, some Bob Newhart, Shelley Berman, as well as some lesser known people like Lord Buckley. And who knew that Shel Silverstein was a singing comic in the nightclub scene in the 50s? We did, and we have his album. So thanks so much for tuning in. Be kind to yourselves. Be safe.
Thank you.
Be sane, and we'll see you next week.
What do you need me to do?
I want to make a practice drink. Listen to this. The meticulous handling of refreshments is vital to romance. So we include advice on preparing the more elegant beverages. He's got a whole bunch of fancy drinks in here. Panama Paradise, Montego Moonlight. I'm going with this one. Gleason's Delight. It'll be real special. Now, I've got everything we need, but I want to practice making it, so I can make it for Tracy and be real smooth. I want to keep looking at the instructions. So you read, and I'll mix.
Place a little powdered sugar on a tissue. Into this, dip the lightly moistened lip of a tall, very thin, frosted glass. Gently add 3 ice cubes. 1, 2, 3. 3 parts Tennessee cognac.
1, 2, 3.
No, sorry, 2 parts cognac.
Not great.
No, 2. 3 ice cubes, 2 parts cognac. I looked at the wrong thing.
What the hell am I supposed to do now? I already put in 3. We got to start over.
No, we don't. We just make a bigger one. You were supposed to put in 2 shots. You put in 3, so we increase everything by 50%.
Okay.
It calls for 3 ice cubes. 50% of 3 is
1.5.
Very good, Scotty. 1.5. So 4.5 total.
1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. All right. What's next?
2 parts Tennessee cognac. So 50% more is 3.
1, 2, 3. Next.
1 part Plymouth gin.
What? We got to start over. What? We got to start over. We put in too much cognac. There was 3 in there already, and then we added 3 more. That's too much.
Wait. We just 2, 3, 6. Triple the recipe. We just put in 4.5 more items.
The glass isn't big enough. Let's just start over. Oh, hey. Here. All right. From the top.
Place a little powdered sugar on a tissue. Into this, dip the lightly moistened lip of a tall, thin, frosted glass. Gently add 4.5 ice cubes. 3 parts Tennessee cognac.
1, 2, 3.
1 part Plymouth gin, which we're adding 50% more.
Whoa. We're not adding 50% more. We're doing the recipe as is.
But I think those other ones 50% more. I thought we were doing that.
But we're not. We got to start over.
Cognac.
2 club 1, 2.
1 part Plymouth gin.
1 part club. No!
No, I
out of cognac. We gotta start over. We got it. Let's go, Ron. Let's go.
Let's let Barrett sugar and tissue. Into this. The lip. The lively voice and lip of a tall, thin, frosty glass. Gently add 3 ice. 2 parts Hennessy cognac.
Cognac?
Yes.
1, 2.
1 part Plymouth gin.
Gin.
And finally, 1 part Marie Brizard green creme de menthe.
Monk.
Do not stir.
What?